Calaroga Shark Media.
If you skipped the weekend, please go back and listen to Saturday and Sunday. I pulled a bunch of clips on Saturday with Joe Rogan and Cat Williams. Sunday, a bunch of clips from Jim Norton's fantastic interview on Neil Brennan's Blocks podcast. Hello, I'm Johnny Mac, and this is today's Daily Comedy News. A couple good jokes from late night. President Biden recently had his physical. Jimmy Fallon said when asked about his mental state, the doctor said, the president's in healthy physical condition. Colbert said, we also got a list of all the medications Joe Biden takes for allergies, blood pressure, and heartburn. They're all pretty common. Eliquis, Crestor, Dymista, Allegra, Pepcid, and Nexium. Thanks, Joe. I believe that's every one of our sponsors. ET Online talked to Taylor Tomlinson and asked her about this nonsense where people compare her to Taylor Swift. I get they're both in their 30s and they're both named Taylor, and I guess they look more like each other than either one of them looks like me. So, I get that, but it's kind of lazy, guys. Taylor says, I don't know who's doing that. There's a couple of comments on Instagram. I'm not doing that. I would never compare myself to Taylor Swift. I'm garbage compared to her. I think it's mostly the name. Yes. ET Online says, like everyone's favorite anti-hero, Tomlinson's act features a few digs at some of her exes, though they aren't famous. They aren't excused for making their way into one of her bits. She says, anyone who dates a comedian, it has to go in knowing that. I dated comedians and I went in knowing that. So this is if I were you, I would not date a comedian. I mean, I know why comedians date each other because we both know the deal. But a person who's not in this business might be very scary. It'd be like, oh, we were just kind of on the record all the time. Stand-up is a solo sport. It's an isolated thing in a lot of ways, and I love it. I love being on tour. I have a good friend who opens for me. I love my tour manager. I've never really been in a situation where I have to create something new every day with a group of people that I really respect and admire. I'm a stand-up first and foremost, and I love to tour. So when I took the first meeting with the TV producers, they were like, we know what you're going to say, but we're only going to film Monday through Wednesday, which means you could tour on the weekends. Once I knew that, I was like, oh, well, then I guess I should really think about it. The more meetings we had, the more people I met who were involved with the project, the more I wanted to do it. Her dream guest? Conan O'Brien. I think Conan would be fun. It's probably a big ask, but I would love if Conan did the show. Conan's going to do the show. He's got a new show coming out himself. He'll want to promote it. Conan's 100% going to do that show. David Cross spoke to The Consequence of Sound and talked about the film work he does and the TV work he does and the stand-up. And he says, it's kind of in the middle. I've done numerous kinds of indie films that don't pay much at all, and I've done big budget films that pay a lot of money. And I do arcs on shows where you don't get a ton of money, but you get something. And I've done my own shows, which pay me more because I'm writing, directing, and producing, and sometimes acting, and stand-up sort of in the middle there. He has a podcast and said, I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I have. Well, then why start it? It's called Census Working Overtime and features him in conversations with guests like Jason Bateman, Michael Cera, Mark Maron, Janine Garofalo, Amber Tamblyn, Eugene Merman, and Steve O. Cross said, I've been asked for years to put something together and didn't have any interest. Then I was like, all right, fine, but I really enjoyed it. It comes naturally to me. There are all these interesting, funny people we're friends. He came to the realization that, look, if you want to keep touring and you want to make money, then the podcast will help you with that. I don't know. That doesn't make me feel good. You don't sound like you want to do a podcast at all, right? It just sounds like, oh, I have to do this. That's not fun, David Cross. He's working on his next stand-up special and says, I'm in the very beginning stages of doing that again for the next tour. That'll probably start in the fall. Next year is the 30th anniversary of Mr. Show. We'll see if they do a reunion. Cross's new special, Worst Daddy in the World, is on YouTube if you want to check that out. Adam Sandler believes Lorne Michaels isn't quite ready to retire from Saturday Night Live. Sandler told Entertainment Tonight, I don't see that happening. I don't know, maybe somebody said he might, but I talked to Lorne. I think he's saying enough. He's rocking. He loves it. Yeah, but Lorne Michaels is 79 years old. In November of this year, he'll be 80. So he'll be 80 years old at the time of next year's big 50th anniversary special. Isn't that the time to get out? Like, they always say get out on top. Why do season 51? Announce you're retiring. Let the whole thing be a big farewell tour next year, culminating in the coronation at the 50th anniversary. You know, you could stay on in like an emeritus role and say that you're helping Tina Fey or Seth Meyers, whoever takes over for Lorne. But like, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying you're 80. Like, this is exactly the time to get out. Like Tom Brady in Tampa. He should have left after winning that Super Bowl. Played 1 year too many. If you enjoy what I do here, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. There's some money in the tip jar, but it's Monday. I'm not going to get a coffee. You are actually going to buy me 5/8 of a smoothie. Smoothies are like $8. You throw $5 in the tip jar, and I'll throw in the other 3. Buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Oh, for once, let me remember to promote the weekly comedy thing. I host the weekly comedy thing on the Live One app. The app is free. The show is free. Who's on this week? Dan Soder, Joe List, Doug Benson, Jeff Ross, Tammy Pascatelli, Dimitri Morton, Tom Papa, Liza Schlesinger, Veer Oz, David Cross, Steve Trevino, Jim Florentine, Kurt Metzger, and Adam Sandler. So if you want to hear less me, more comedians, kind of the opposite of this podcast, go check out the Weekly Comedy Thing on the Live One app. Free and free. Do it. Rami Youssef grew up in New Jersey. He said he didn't envision being a comedian. He said, I never had this larger ambition because I didn't think it was feasible. It didn't feel real. When he was a teenager, he saw the Arab American Comedy Festival and Axis of Evil comedy tour. I always have loved the name of that tour. Begin picking up steam. So by the time he hit college, the idea of performing had taken root. He dropped out of school, landed a role on See Dad Run, which apparently was a Nick at Night sitcom starring Scott Baio. Rolling Stone adds, 4 years before Scott Baio became one of the highest profile Trump supporters in the entertainment industry. Interesting note there, Rolling Stone. The ArabNews.com, your home for comedy news, spoke to Russell Peters. He gave the advice, identify your dream and actively chase it. It's far more rewarding to have pursued your dream, even if you fail, than to passively wonder about it. He said in the early days, he would drive hours to perform, earning $50 plus chicken wings, a tank of gas, and a soda. He said, if I stayed, I'd be in the exact same financial position I would have been had I gone, so I wasn't losing anything, and if I'd stay there, I'd be talking to people for free. I just remember all the hard gigs. Those were the fun ones. He has enjoyed his visits to the kingdom. He admires the generosity of the Saudi people. He says, I remember at the hotel, they said, how did you sleep? And I said, honestly, it was the best, most comfortable bed I've ever felt in my life. And when I came back to my hotel room, they had packed up all the stuff that I complimented and shipped it to me in America. As for the venue, he said the acoustics there are great because it's built for that, and they put the sound dampeners in there. The same can't be said for where I just performed in Egypt. Will Forte is sad. He got to see Coyote versus Acme. He says it's incredible. This movie has been parked by Warner Brothers. On Twitter, because that's what we call it, Elon, Will Forte wrote, to the cast and crew of Coyote vs. Acme, I know that a lot of you have not gotten a chance to see our movie, and sadly, it's looking like you never will. When I first heard that our movie was getting deleted, I hadn't seen it yet. Yeah, some kind of write-off thing. So I was thinking when everybody else must have been thinking that this thing must be a hunk of junk, but then I saw it, and it's incredible. Super funny throughout, visually stunning, sweet, sincere, and emotionally resonant in a very earned way. And as the credits rolled, I just sat there thinking how lucky I was to be part of something so special. That quickly turned to confusion and frustration. This is the movie they're not going to release? Look, when it comes to Hollywood business stuff, I don't know stuff about stuff. Even when a movie tests well, like ours, there's no guarantee it's going to be a hit. And at the end of the day, the people who paid for the movie can obviously do whatever they want with it. Doesn't mean I have to like it or agree with it. It doesn't mean that this movie is anything less than magnificent. You would be so proud of it, a movie that should be seen, but won't. The Hollywood Reporter had reported, as a reporter would do, that Warner Brothers shelved Coyote vs. Acme for a tax write-off. Fans complained. The studio offered to shop it around. Amazon offered in the $40 to $45 million range for the film, but Warner's rejected it. The film also starred John Cena, who's got pretty good comedy chops. Netflix has revealed that Brian Simpson Live from the Mothership will debut globally on the platform on March 19th, directed by Baron Vaughn. This is the first special to ever been shot at Joe Rogan's comedy Mothership. Simpson covers everything from racism and gun violence to in vitro fertilization and masculinity. No trailer yet, and that's your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. See you tomorrow.